And if you're satisfied, there's no errors, omissions, corrections, or discussion, entertain a motion.
Lorick moves to approve the minutes of December 10th, 2024. Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Christine.
Anna, aye.
Algi.
Jinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Okay, item 4 is consideration of a conditional use permit amendment with conditions and restrictions. Going to review a request for a conditional use permit amendment along with conditions and restrictions for the conversion of operations from a coal to an LNG and construction of related equipment and facilities at the We Energies Elm Road Generating Station located at 4431, 4451, 4503, 4513, 4541, 4541, 4651, 4751, and 4801 East Oakwood Road, 4401 East Elm Road, 10640, 10770, 10800, 10900, 10920, 10940, 11002, 11002R, 11050, 11050R, 11060 South Chicago Road, submitted by Ali Wukoyak, We Energies. Wow, that was a lot. Thankfully, you don't have to read that again. Christy, you want to take it away for starters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The item before you is a conditional use permit amendment. We Energies went through a conditional use permit process in 2003 for their coal operations, and this proposal has been very public. They're in the process of converting their operations from coal to liquefied natural gas, and that will require the construction of related equipment and facilities as well. The exterior plans for the buildings will be reviewed by the Plan Commission at a future date. This item before you is for the conditional use permit. The as I mentioned, it's an amendment. The category in our zoning code is major utility, which is pretty broad for a lot of reasons. Obviously, We Energies and their facility falls into that category. They are converting all their units to natural gas by the end of 2032. It's a long process, just starting the approval process right now. The coal piles will eventually be removed. The large main pile will be replaced with a new storage tank. And then there will be conversion to include construction of 5 natural gas-fired combustion turbines. The public hearing may be scheduled as early as Monday, February 17th. That public hearing will be in front of the Common Council. So the Plan Commission's role this evening is to provide a recommendation to the Common Council. And then the public hearing for public comment is held in front of the Common Council on that Monday, February 17th. It's oddly a Monday. There is an election on Tuesday, February 18th. So just a side note there. The conditions and restrictions, as you may recall, last month we talked about combining what used to be 2 agenda items into the conditional use permit and conditions and restrictions, considering both of them this evening. I'm not going to go into all detail, but the basic restrictions are that it's a public utility use. The operations are obviously 24/7, 365 days a year. The 2003 conditions and restrictions are very, very detailed. They went over easements, construction hours, shifts, water supply, traffic, construction traffic, and main traffic being limited to Highway 32, and noise levels of operation and during construction. And those 2003 conditions and restrictions are carried over with the new document. It references the conditions and restrictions from 2003. With that, I would like to turn it over to We Energies representatives, who will give a much better rundown of their operations than I will. They have a presentation that was provided in your packets, but with that, I'll be turning it over to Rick with We Energies. Rick O'Connor. Oh, Rick is not done. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Clicker, or you wanna
I don't
wait
need
for
the
Rick?
clicker because
Okay.
my thing is just going to be really quick
Okay.
before Rick gets up here. So, good evening. My name is Jennifer Bogner. I'm the Director of Local Affairs at We Energies. And so we're here in front of you tonight, obviously, to talk about the Oak Creek facility, but I just wanted to give you a little background on the reasons why and sort of our overall plan. So some of the drivers that we have seen for what we're doing is economic development. We all know about Microsoft, we know about the need that they have, but there are plenty of other economic development projects, Oak Creek and other places in this region. We have bigger companies that are adding on. Eli Lilly just announced a big project, Haribo, Uline, and we have to address those needs. So that's one of the big drivers. A second reason why we're doing this is there's been some shifts in the rules that govern us. So MISO is our regional grid authority. They do all the grid planning for this part of the country. And they've shifted the way they look at things. In the past, they've taken the peak for the year, summertime here, and we've done all our planning around that one peak. What they've done is they've shifted it to a seasonal peak model where we have to look at each season, each of the 4 seasons, and we plan around the peak for each season, which kind of shifts the way we do things. The other thing that's driving it is changes to the EPA rules. So the EPA made a change to how they govern coal plants. The rule is now stating that by 2031, utilities have to either shut down their coal facilities or they have to use carbon capture. Carbon capture is not available right now commercially, and we don't think it's not viable to be used in this part of the country. So as a result, we're shutting all of our old coal units down. 5 and 6 at Oak Creek are already shut down. 7 and 8 are scheduled to be shut down this year. And then the other thing that we have is kind of our energy transition. Our goal is to have net zero emissions by 2050. And so what that means to us is we have to find a way to get to that net zero. And natural gas capacity is the bridge we feel to get us to that net zero. And so how we're addressing that is we are proposing a few different new natural gas facilities. The CTs here, which Rick is going to talk about. We've also proposed a RICE facility, a little bit different natural gas facility down in the town of Paris in Kenosha County. And then we're repowering. We have the 4 old units that are being retired, but we have the 2 new units here in Oak Creek, the Power of the Future units, we call them Elm Road. Those 2 units, because it's a newer technology coal, we've done some experimentation and we can repower them to gas. So those will be flipped to natural gas. We're also going to do that up in Wausau. We have our Weston 4 plant up there that's currently coal. That's going to be transitioned to gas. We need firm load for all this. So we've proposed the Rochester lateral project that comes from roughly Rochester up to the Oak Creek facility. It enters Oak Creek at our line of our facility, so it will not affect any residents in Oak Creek directly. We've also proposed a project, Hartford to Port Washington, same thing, firm load. LNG, we've proposed one here that Rick's going to talk about. We recently built 2 other LNG storage facilities, one in the town of Ixonia in Jefferson County, the other one in the town of LaGrange in Walworth, and we're proposing one here. And then to round it out, we've got plans for solar, wind, and batteries, and that will be the future for us. So that's sort of a background, very quick. I apologize for how fast it is, but I want to give Rick time to talk about our specific facility here.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Rick O'Connor, and I will provide a overview of the combustion turbine projects and the LNG project. As Jen indicated, we're building a lot of wind, we're building a lot of solar projects. We're going to be shutting down the South Oak Creek coal units. This is one of the pieces of the puzzle to build some additional natural gas generators to fill in those gaps for when the wind's not blowing and when the sun's not shining. This slide here is an artist's rendering of the equipment that we're proposing. I don't know if you probably can't see if put the pointer on there. Yeah, if you look there, so right in the center, that's the 5 combustion turbines. I'll talk a bit about those in a moment. Behind there is the Elm Road Generating Station. That's the existing coal-fired units. That will stay in operation, and ultimately by the year 2030, it'll be converted from coal to natural gas. To the right of Elm Road, which you really can't see it, is the South Oak Creek coal units. Those will all be shut down. 5 and 6 were shut down last year. 7 and 8, units 7 and 8 will be shut down by the end of this year. And then in the right side of the screen, where Christie's pointing to, that is the new liquefied natural gas tank, and that will be located where the existing coal pile 3 is. So essentially it's replacing the coal pile 3. This gives you a little aerial overview. Just the 2 red boxes. The top one is where the combustion turbine facility will be located. Again, CT is combustion turbine. And the bottom oval is where the LNG facility will be located. And LNG, again, is liquefied natural gas. The combustion turbine project will include 5 General Electric combustion turbine generators. And this really is the workhorse of the industry. There's probably 1,000 General Electric combustion turbines out there in the U.S. and really around the world in operation today. It came out in the 1990s. We have quite a few GE 7F combustion turbines in operation. It's a reliable machine. It's also a fast start machine. So it'll complement the coal plants. It'll complement the wind and the solar, that it can follow the electric load, make sure we're able to provide power to the customers. It has an expected capacity factor of 20%. So this will be a little bit different than the coal plants. This will not be a base load plant. Not going to be operating all the time. It's really, again, intended just to fill the gaps for when the renewables are not available. We will have a new natural gas line that'll come in through Racine County into the site. It's called the Rochester Lateral, and we'll also connect into the Lakeshore Lateral. That'll bring additional natural gas into this area. We will interconnect to the ATC substations. ATC is the transmission company. It's one of the reasons why we're locating this plant at this site. Essentially, this is where we plug the 5 combustion turbines into the grid. There's 2 existing substations there already. When we shut down the coal plants, essentially what we're going to do is unplug the coal units and we'll replug the 5 natural gas combustion turbines back into those ATC substations. It's a pretty long, complicated process to get approvals to plug into the grid, so it's a significant benefit here to be able to utilize these existing substations, as well as a significant economic benefit. Total cost of the project for the CTs is $1.2 billion. If approved, we would expect to begin construction this summer. At this point, it looks like probably August timeframe. And we would have the first of the 5 combustion turbines operating by the end of 27 and the last one operating by summer of 2028. And I'll step through some of these slides pretty quickly. If you want to jump back to any of them, feel free, or if you got questions as we go, feel free to ask any questions. This really just shows, in the pink is the gas compressor yard. We do have to increase the pressure of the natural gas coming in to get it into the combustion turbines. You'll see there's 2 power blocks there, a 138 kV power block with 2 units and a 345 kV power block with 3 units. That's really just plugging into the 2 different ATC substations. They have different voltages. And then above there in the green is the air-cooled heat exchanger yard. It's really, if similar to what you have on your automobile. It's essentially a radiator. There's really no plume coming off that. It's all a closed-loop cooling system. I don't think we need to go through this in a whole lot of detail. This has a lot of the lighting on it, but it's also in your package. This gives you an elevation view of the combustion turbine plant. There are obviously 5 of these. This is a elevation view of one of the units. Starting on the left, that is the inlet filters. So a lot of air taken into these units. In the center is the gas turbine and the electric generator. In short, we're bringing in fuel through a combustor. That hot gas spins the turbine spins the generator makes the electricity that we then plug into the ATC grid, and that power goes out to your homes. To the right on this slide essentially is the hot air gas goes up out the stack. Each one will have a 90-foot stack, so there will be five stacks here for the exhaust gas. These stacks are low enough that there will not be any lights on these stacks. Switching over to the liquefied natural gas project, quick overview. What we're proposing here is, again, very similar to 2 projects that we just built. We just built 2 1 BCF liquefied natural gas tanks, one out near Whitewater, one up near Ixonia. This is a cold day. We're glad to see that they're operating today to provide LNG into the gas system, really for heating homes on cold days like we have today. And there's really 3 components. There's the tank, there's the liquefaction equipment, and what we're doing here is the liquefaction equipment is really like refrigeration equipment. We're converting the natural gas in the vapor form into a liquid. And the liquid, in the liquid form, you can store 600 times the volume of the vapor. So that's the reason we're turning it into a liquid. We put that liquid into the tank, and then in the winter, on the cold winter days just like today, and we've been running for about 30 hours on the project out at Whitewater, we pull that liquid out, we warm it up in what's called a vaporizer. It's really just a warm water bath. You warm it up and it turns right back into natural gas. You put it right back into the system. So the benefit is obviously, it kind of acts like a coal pile. You have a local storage of fuel right here. You're not dependent upon a pipeline coming from, Texas or Oklahoma. Total cost of the LNG portion of the project is $456 million. If approved, construction is expected to begin late summer 2025, in service by the end of 2027. This is just a quick process flow diagram. We won't go through this in great detail, but on the left side in the green is a vapor. That's natural gas. The blue is the liquid. That's the LNG. Again, we take it in off the pipeline. You cool it down to minus 260 degrees, so it's very cold. Turns into a liquid. You put that liquid in the tank, and we really run that liquefier all summer to fill that tank, and then on the cold winter days or any other time of the year where we're coming up short on natural gas, we, again, pull that liquid out, warm it up, put it right back into that same pipeline. It's a pretty straightforward process, and you're probably aware there is a smaller LNG tank already on the Oak Creek site. It's about a quarter of a BCF, and that was put in, I believe, 1965, so that's been there for 50 years. This really is the same process, same concept as what's been out there since 1965, but on a larger scale. I won't go through all the detail here unless you have questions. It's really just the layout of the equipment. Probably the big part is the tank itself. The tank is at its highest point, 170 feet high, 206-foot diameter, and there's really 2 tanks. This is what's considered a full containment tank. On the inside, there's an inner tank, and that's made out of 9% nickel, and that's just the alloy that's capable of, holding the low temperature liquid in the tank. On the outside, it's a carbon steel tank with up to about 3-foot concrete containment wall around that. The anticipated project schedule for both projects: we filed the applications with the Public Service Commission and with the DNR in spring last year. We expect to get approvals this summer, and we'll start construction shortly thereafter. Again, we'll have that first combustion turbine delivered May of 2026. And as I indicated, the GE turbine's a very popular turbine. We got our reservations in on those pieces of equipment. They're a long lead delivery piece, so that first one comes in May of 2026. The last one arrives January of 2027. We'll get that first combustion turbine running, connected to the grid by the end of 27, as well as we're going to get the LNG tank constructed up and starting to fill the tank by the end of 27. And then that last gas turbine will be, of the 5 turbines, will be put in operation during the summer of 2028. So a lot of info, but we can certainly come back. This is just a quick overview of the landscaping plan. A lot of this landscaping has already been installed. A lot of the berms have already been installed as part of the Elm Road project. And lastly, we have a couple of photo simulations. This is probably the best one, or at least one to look at. This is from the main entrance along Highway 32. Really don't have a pointer. Maybe Christy can, right behind the speed limit sign there of 25. I apologize, it kind of got blocked there, but that's what the tank will look like from Highway 32. The ash landfill is straight on here, so the gas combustion turbines are behind that landfill. You will not see the combustion turbines from the entrance. You do see the Elm Road stack, though. That's what's right there. We do have another view from Haas Park, essentially on the east end of Elm Road there. That you will get a view of the 5 combustion turbine stacks, and over to the right there, you will get a view of the LNG tank. So these are photo simulations, just really intended to give you a feel for what the facility would look like from the neighbor's perspective. So Haas Park, as you're probably aware, is the park right over by Barton Oaks subdivision. This really is the nearest neighborhood to the Oak Creek site. And that's a little closer on Haas Park, right at the end of Elm Road. You get a little closer up view of the combustion turbines, as well as you can see the existing LNG tank, the blue tank off to the left there. Again, that's the tank that's been in there since 1965, and that is it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Rick. We'll go right to council with questions. Christine, you want to start?
Yes, I have actually quite a bit of questions. Number one, production. So does the production of the liquid gas, is going to be matching the current production that you had with the coal previously, or is it going to be more or less, or how is that matched? You have like a chart that you did the analysis
Yeah, that's a
for?
good question. Yeah, the way the LNG works is we essentially fill the tank up. So it holds 2 billion cubic feet of natural gas, and that'll take us about 200 days in the summer to fill that tank. So we run that all the way until you get that tank full. And then on times where we're low of natural gas, typically in the winter on a cold day like today, we will draw that liquid out of the tank and run it either to the combustion turbines or it's connected to the natural gas distribution system, where that goes to the homes to provide natural gas for heating on their furnaces. So
The operation, the hours of operation, Is it gonna be 24? What is the hours of operation for
Yeah,
this?
hours of operation will be 24/7. These facilities could operate at any point. These are really peaking facilities. The gas turbines are peakers. These is when we need electricity. That's when these units operate. They are expected to only operate about 20% of the year, and the same on the LNG. That's really only going to operate, probably 10 days a year is what you would expect for the vaporization to send gas out to the system, and probably up to 200 days a year to fill the tank.
Okay, now, safety. Because these are new tanks, and I know they're gonna be more modern than the existing one from 1962, you said. So what is the safety plan for, especially for employees or neighborhood or anything from that aspect? Do you have like a safety plan that everybody will have access to, or what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yeah, and certainly safety is, paramount to everything we do here. Obviously that's our business, operating coal, operating natural gas facilities. We have several other of these facilities. There is in your packet, I believe, there's an 18-page safety report.
It's a very highly regulated industry, to say the least. Get into
To say the least. Yes.
power generation. It's at its highest standards. It's not going to lack any more safety than it has as a coal plant than it does as
Yep.
a gas plant.
Yeah, what you'll see in that safety report, it kind of walks you through what are the safety regulations. And we're regulated by PHMSA, which is the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, and we're regulated by NFPA, National Fire Protection. And it kind of walks through, in that document, it'll walk you through what the safety regulations and requirements are. There's some pretty extensive siting requirements for where you can put these facilities, how you need to build them, pretty extensive oversight during the construction process. And we had an excellent working relationship with the Public Service Commission, who oversaw a lot of the construction during that process, as well as on the other two facilities we just built, and we'll do the same thing here. There will be an emergency response plan that we will put together, and we'll sit down with the fire department here and walk through that. And likewise, we did have some discussions previously with the fire department on this facility, just to bring them up to speed on what we're doing here and making sure everything matches and meets their expectations. We'll also provide training for the emergency responders, for the fire department, similar to what we provided on the two projects we just brought online last year.
Okay, and final question, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to answer that or not. This is a huge funding. May I ask, how is that funded?
You're probably right. I probably can't answer that one. Works through, we're a rate-based utility, so it works through the rates. We work that through with the Public Service Commission. We go through a pretty extensive approval process, one to demonstrate the need. What we got to get is, it's called a CPCN, a Certificate of Public Convenience and Need. So we got to demonstrate these facilities are needed. We got to demonstrate that it's economical. And then we got to go through essentially rate cases and work through what the financial implications of the facilities are.
So is it like, I'm not sure, is it like state funded, federal funded, or?
It's funded by
private?
the electric customers
Okay.
and the natural gas customers.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve?
No questions. My questions have been answered.
Ashley?
And nothing from engineering at this time.
Greg?
Only question I think is one for some clarification. Maybe Todd or Christy can answer this. Being that this is a utility, I know it comes up often when cell phone towers and things of that nature come in front of the Planning Commission. Does this fall under the same rules as, I guess, a cell phone tower, where we're kind of limited on what we can actually say yes and no to?
Like the FCC ruling over the cell towers. Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I think so. However, I mean, we do have the authority to review
Sure.
review the use.
Right, and I get it. I mean, this is a utility that's a necessity. It seems that natural gas is cleaner burning than coal, so it seems positive in my eyes. But yeah, I have no questions regarding it. Thank you.
Okay. Chris?
No questions. Questions.
Okay. Although it's not a public hearing, I'm going to entertain some questions, but I'm not going nuts tonight because we're having a public hearing on it soon. So, sir, if you'd like to step up, your name and address.
My name is Greg Millard. I have a question for the gentleman.
Yes.
What's going to happen? 4335 East Studio Lane. We're 900 feet from that existing tank. What's going to happen to the existing tank? Is it going to be removed? The one that's shown in the picture here?
The existing tank from 1965. Does We Energies want to answer, or should I provide my best guess?
Yeah, our intention is to retire that tank and remove it. It's currently empty. We have just finished draining that tank, cleaning it out. We don't have approval yet from the Public Service Commission to retire it, but we are starting that process, to request retirement and removal of that tank.
Mr. Millard, that was the same answer I got.
Question.
And again, very much regulated. They just don't take it down. Again, it's very highly regulated. So, this is a positive step forward. The coal's going away. I think everybody understands that's for everybody's benefit. It's a large undertaking. To Greg's question, yes, the FCC, not the FCC, Public Service Commission and everybody like that, we're going to have to provide power, without a doubt. Keep in mind, this is taking down some base load energy going on because we retired 4 turbines in Oak Creek. And this base load's only going to run at 20% when wind and solar doesn't keep up the base load. So this is essential. And only, are things like Microsoft coming online and further need for people that carry 2 phones and things like that. Everything's run by electric. So, we're going in the right direction, without a doubt. That is my personal opinion here in Oak Creek. Not just in Oak Creek, but in the state of Wisconsin and elsewhere with this type of energy and retiring coal. I think it's a well thought out plan. I really do not have any safety concerns for it. As I said, it's a very highly regulated industry. They do work hand in hand for our citizens with our fire department. Amy, is there anything you want to add to it at this time from fire? Amy, we will need your name.
Good evening. Amy Jibb, Lieutenant, Oak Creek Fire Department. We will work really closely with all the safety standards here. Nothing further at this time.
Okay. So again, hand in hand from initial construction to periodic inspections, as well as safety training, not only on site while they're building it, but while in operation as well. So every confidence, We Energies has been a really good partner with Oak Creek. And I think this is going to aid the residents down in the 4th District greatly from some of the concerns they've had in the past with a coal plant versus a natural liquefied plant. Anybody else for a question or so? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Henry Kohler, 10657 South Chicago, kitty corner from the power plant. My question and concern is, what about the traffic during construction? Right now, I can't get out of my driveway. And that's not even taken place yet.
Well, traffic's always been a concern. This isn't the first time that power plant has done large-scale projects. There's usually peak shift times. Those guys are usually at 6 a.m. start time, somewhere like that. If it really becomes a concern, sir, that's something the city can work out along with We Energies going forward on the start. Well, probably not start times, but the best we can to regulate it. Highway 32 is a state highway, so it's naturally kind of busy, but you are correct. There will be a lot of workers going in and out of there. No different than when they did Power of the Future and expanded the plant back in 2012, 2010, somewhere in there. So, We'll do our best. We'll do our best. Okay, no further questions or discussions. We'll look for a motion on item 4.
York moves to recommend that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit amendment for conversion of operations from coal to LNG and construction of related equipment facilities at the We Energies Elm Road Generating Station located at 4431, 4451, 4503, 4513, 4541, 4651, 4751, and 4801 East Oakwood Road, 4401 East Elm Road, 10640, 10770, 10800, 10900, 10920, 10940, 11002, 11002R, 11050, 11050R, and 11060 South Chicago Road, submitted by Ali Witkowski, We Energies, after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call beginning with Steve, please.
Bouch, aye.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorik, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Anna, I.
Okay, moving on. Item 5 is a site review plan, and they're a site and review plan related for the construction of a new ATC control building to be located at 10770. I said that right, 770 South Chicago Road, submitted by Sarah J. Lamb, ATC, LLC. Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is related in some minor shape or form, mostly because it's on the We Energies property, but this is a really small proposal for construction of a new control building buried deep within the transmission field that no one will even see. Just want to make also a side note, there was a typo in the report. I accidentally did some copying and pasting and forgot to delete the last 3 paragraphs in your report. Should test who caught that. So my apologies for that. But the proposal is to construct a new control building, shift it a little bit further north than its existing location. It's constructed of corrugated metal, not a material we typically would approve at the Plan Commission level. However, given the small size of 24 by 60 foot building and the fact that absolutely no one will see this building, staff is recommending approval for that main reason. It's just hidden really deep within the transmission field within the We Energies site. So this is an example what the building in a larger scale, but what that building looks like from the exterior. It's an unmanned, it's simply just mechanics inside the building. With that being said, staff is recommending approval with just one small revision to be made on the plans.
Thank you, Christie. Would the applicant like to say anything before I go to the commission? Anybody? All right. Just to be clear for the commission, this might help. ATC is American Transmission Company. They do all the transmission lines that after the power is generated, they carry the electricity out. So this is really an essential building for the process of electrical distribution. That's my expertise on it. So we'll start with some questions. Steve, you want to start this time, please?
No questions.
Ashley?
No questions.
Greg?
No questions and no concerns with the building material. As you said, it's not visible to anybody.
Greg? Sorry, Chris?
No questions.
I have none myself. Again, it's just an essential piece of equipment for it. It is buried very deep within the We Energy lines, and this is the very start of how you get your electricity to your home. So there's no further questions. Anything from studio audience? Did I skip over you? I'm
Yes.
so sorry. Go ahead.
I have no questions.
Oh, I'm losing track of where I started. I usually wrap around. I usually go side to side. But anyways, there's no further questions. Anybody out there in this studio audience? No, nothing? Okay. There's nothing more. Motion on 5.
York moves to approve site and related plans for construction of a new ATC control building to be located at 10770 South Chicago Road, submitted by Sarah Lamp, ATC LLC, with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that revised plans be submitted with building materials being labeled. And 3, that all revised plans are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Anna, I.
Ouch, aye.
Okay, item 6 is consideration of a certified survey map combining the properties at 8910, 8940, 8980 South Ridgeview Drive, submitted by Ivan Basilic. North Investments LLC. If I butchered your name, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Christie.
Thank you. We're laughing because I just realized I'm advancing the slides on my own laptop and I wasn't advancing them for you guys. I'm sorry. Controlling 2 laptops at one time here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item was before the Plan Commission a little over a year ago, and it was never recorded. This is to combine 3 parcels under the same ownership. It was reviewed and approved by the Common Council November 7th, unfortunately not recorded on time. State statute states that the approval becomes null and void if it's not recorded within 1 year of the approval. So with that, it's pretty straightforward, and staff's recommending that the Plan Commission recommend Common Council approval, and we'll make sure to get this recorded as soon as possible.
Ashley, anything?
No questions.
Greg?
No questions.
Chris?
No question.
Christine?
No questions.
Steve?
No questions.
I myself have none neither. It's just an unfortunate miss. So, if there's no further discussion, motion on 6.
Clerk moves to recommend to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Ivan Vasilievich, North Investments LLC, for the properties at 8910, 8940, and 8980 South Ridgeview Drive be approved with the following conditions. Number 1, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes, are made prior to recording.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Greg.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Anna, I.
Ouch, aye.
Chinsky, aye.
Okay, and item 7 is a site plan review. It's the review site and related plans and landscaping modifications to TNT Express, an existing building located 8910, 8940, 8980 South Ridgeview Drive. Christine?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is regarding the same 3 properties that we just reviewed with the certified survey map. This went through the conditional use permit review, and a condition was to submit a site plan. The current owner inherited a bit of a mess with these 3 properties. The previous owner had done substantial improvements, if you will, modifications to the site without any city review, and it's really tucked into an area that it's a dead-end road that if you are not going there for a purpose, very easily missed by staff or in the city. So the current owner kind of inherited a mess and is proposing some site modifications and ultimately some approval of what was done after the fact. So this is a chopped up panoramic view. It's a really long site from the Ridgeview. You've got a building on the very north end at 9810. You've got the middle piece, which is paved, which was paved without city approval, and also the landscape berm that you see there on the west side of the property. And then you have a second building at 9880 on the south bookend of the property. So kind of 3 pieces tied as one here. What is proposed is to provide landscaping, install landscaping on the very east. North is to your left on this view here. So the east is abutting the interstate, and the west is Ridgeview, and the green shaded areas are going to be new landscaping that's proposed. It's it's a big sea of asphalt on this site. And with that being said, the middle area was paved without city approval, so stormwater management and retention is necessary. The berm that you see here, the previous owner installed that thinking, oh, this is a good solution to screen the trucks, the semi trucks that are being worked on and that are parked there. And, unfortunately, it doesn't meet the stormwater management requirements. So just a little note that engineering is working and having constant communication with the consultant, and the city's consultant, R.A. Smith, has commented back about some modifications, but we are making progress on the stormwater management plan that's been submitted. So that berm that you see there actually will be removed, and the retention area will be installed with some landscaping not as substantial as what was there, but we have stormwater management requirements that need to be met. Also proposed is a construction of 2 refuse enclosures, which are highlighted in the red squares. They will be constructed of masonry material as required by the code. There are 107 parking spaces on site and 41 are required, so they do definitely meet the code. And again, the semi-trailers are being worked on. That's the user, the tenant is auto repair of semi-trailers. So that's why the large area in the middle for parking of semi-trucks is necessary. And then they are proposing, they have a different tenant who tows vehicles that have been, I think, repossessed, if I'm stating that correctly. The yellow highlighted square at the northeast corner of the site is proposed for the storage of those vehicles, and the screening material proposed is this fabric that you see like on the outside of a tennis court. Tennis courts are pretty hardy material, but that is what the applicant is proposing as far as screening. It's a 6-foot tall fence that will screen that storage of the vehicles in that particular area. With that being said, that's the conclusion of the proposal for the site modifications, and staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions in front of you.
Thank you, Christy. Applicant want to say anything or just wait on any possible questions? Wait on questions? Okay. We'll start with Greg.
My only question is regarding the fencing material. I noticed on the brochure that was included, it has a 3-year warranty. I don't know how many years this holds up, but if after 4 years, if this starts fraying and ripping away, do we have recourse to make them replace it?
Yes, they would be held to the standard that is
Okay.
maintained in good condition. Absolutely.
Okay, that's my only concern. Other than that, everything looks good. Thanks.
Okay. Chris?
I think it looks good. No questions.
Okay. Christine?
I have no questions, thanks.
Steve?
No questions.
Ashley?
I have nothing further than what Christy had mentioned, that engineering's been working with the project team on getting that stormwater management plan submitted and approved. Thank you for that.
Okay. Really no further comments other than you inherited a property that had a lot of improvement needed because the former owner just kind of took it upon himself, do what he was going to do. But I'm glad to see you're taking time and doing it right, and just want to express appreciation of the staff and the city to do things right. We do value you as a business, but we do want to do things correctly here in the city of Oak Creek. With that, I have nothing else, so we can move on to a motion.
Clerk moves to approve site and related plans for site and landscaping modifications at TNT Express, an existing business located at 9810, 9840, and 9880 South Ridgeview Drive, submitted by Ivan Vasilovich North Investments LLC with the following conditions: that all relevant code requirements remain in effect, 2, that revised plans be submitted indicating the fence height and required parking calculations per code, and 3, that all revised plans are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call, beginning with me. Bukevich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Anna, I.
Ouch, aye.
Jinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Okay. Item 8 is conditional use permit with conditions and restrictions. It is the review of the request for that conditional use permit, along with conditions and restrictions for an animal daycare, recreation, and kennel boarding facility shelter at Houndstown, USA, a proposed business to be located at 7126 South Millers Way, Suite 101, 102, submitted by Andrew Cromie, Cromie Corporation. Todd.
I'll be presenting item 8 through 11, and then we'll
Thanks
turn
for
it
the
back to
heads up.
Christie. So a little change of pace here. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the property, which is located on South Millers Way, and East Rawson, used to be 517 East Rawson. The property is zoned LM Light Manufacturing. It is the site of a new multi-tenant light industrial building. And Houndstown, USA is looking to occupy part of the building, and they're seeking a conditional use permit for animal daycare, recreation, kennel boarding shelter. And you can see I have a couple of photos of what that new building looks like, and at least the portion that they'll be occupying. As I mentioned, they'll be occupying the phase 1 building, the western 2 suites of that, suite 101 and 102, which is approximately 6,000 square feet. And just kind of give you an idea of how they're going to be using the space here. You can see in the pink is the area they'll be using for the daycare portion. They'll be boarding dogs as well, in the yellow with the kennel areas. And also you can see the area of the grooming in purple. That'll be the main uses of the building. They say they have a capacity of up to 90 dogs, but more so would likely have about 50 dogs on site at any given time. They will be boarding dogs, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But then they'll have operation hours for drop off and pickup for the daycare, and that's going to be Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 7, Saturday, 7 to 5, and Sunday, 11 to 1. You had received in your packet full conditions and restrictions. And just to run through a couple of them, they will be required to have sound dampening walls built in the parallel demising walls to mitigate sound. There will be no outdoor activity or operation permitted, including dog runs or play areas outside. And they won't be allowed to have any other outdoor outdoor storage on site. So if Plan Commission feels comfortable with the proposed, we've got the suggested motion.
Thank you, Todd. Applicant like to say a few words before we go to questions, or just? Okay, he's indicated he'll wait. Got where I'm at, so. Greg, you want to kick us off?
Sure. My only question is, for the boarding of dogs, I don't know if this might be for the applicant. Obviously, it's 24/7 for boarding. Is there an employee there overnight, or are the dogs left alone for certain hours overnight?
Andy Cromie with Cromie Corporation. Dogs will be left there overnight, very similar to the boarding facilities that exist currently. Typically, an employee, as is mentioned, will be there till 7 at night, leave, be back in the morning, sometime before 6:30 when it would open. But weekends, or let's say Sunday, for instance, they'll be there to check them in the morning, feed them, give them water, clean up. Someone would be there to check during the day, and then someone in the evening as well.
Thank you.
You bet.
Wonderful. Chris?
No question, looks good.
Christine?
Yes, I have a question. It says here in the condition that there is no outdoor, like running or play area.
We will not have an exterior play area.
So is there indoors somewhere like where they can maybe like stretch? They're not going to be sitting in their kennels all the time,
Yep.
right?
If we can go back to the map, all of the areas that are in the pink our open play areas. Approximately 10 to 15 dogs per play area. Dogs are size by size.
Just gonna ask.
Youth versus age level, amount of exercise they really need. So it's more than just taking the first 15 and putting them in this room, but that's where they'll be playing.
All right, thank you.
Traffic-wise, is there like a drop-off zone or anything? Is there just regular pulling the parking stalls or?
Pull in the parking lot, yep. So if we can go back to the site plan, there is directly in front of what will be our exterior door, which actually is the inner of the two suites there. There are some handicap stalls there, but typically it's a drop-off. Dogs should be leashed, is required to be leashed on our behalf walking into the building until they are in our care. Once we take them, we'll put them in the back, but when we release them to the owner, they're required to be leashed and should be leashed throughout the parking lot.
Thank you. And no further questions?
Ashley?
No questions.
Sound to me. Where will dogs relieve themselves?
Right, they're gonna go either in their suites overnight or they're gonna go right in the playpen. It's up to us as workers to make sure that we're paying attention to that. So we'll have mop buckets ready to go, obviously cleaning up waste, double bagging, solid waste, and then placing that in the trash. So we'll have trash receptacle. Using the proper chemicals or proper cleaning requirements per our hound. So we'll be part of a franchise, so we'll have requirements for cleaning that are well established.
Kind of industry standards?
Yep.
Not very familiar. And then, how many dogs at capacity could be here?
So we could have up to 90 dogs, so about 15 for each of the 6 play areas that are located in there. You don't want a whole lot more than that from that play standpoint, but typically about 50 on a day.
Okay. I think we're okay. We went round and round with this years ago, and say we actually have an ordinance. I don't know what it is. If it's 100 dogs. Yeah, anybody? Does that ring a bell to anybody when we went through one of the dog facilities? We're like, what's the appropriate number? But guessing we're under. But I think we should make sure that conditions and restrictions, that we restrict it to local ordinance on how many dogs are allowed in a boarding facility. I'm sorry for bringing it up.
That's
but
okay.
We went round and round with,
Brentwood. This was a new Brentwood facility.
The
Camp Bow Wow. I thought it was over 100 though.
Sure, yeah, so it is, kennel and boarding facility section, under service uses. And, dogs kept on premise will not equal more than 15 per acre of land. And, Todd had done the calculations and it's underneath the, it meets the code.
Okay. Take your word for it.
And then dog runs shall not be used between 8 p.m., 8 a.m., which doesn't apply here because there is not a dog run. But yeah, the calculations of, was it 20, that's the cats. Minimum lot size for a kennel shall be 2 acres, which obviously this meets, it's a really large property.
Okay.
But thanks for bringing that to our attention. We'll double check.
Okay.
Yep.
And then lastly, Amy, don't mean to throw you to the dogs. Bad pun. Any concerns from fire? Yep.
Oak Creek Fire Department. For these animals that are there for 24 hours, what's the life safety plan for these animals? Should something happen in the building as far as exits and a firefighting operation of rescuing these animals that are in there without humans?
So our facility will be sprinklered, and there are access points both in the front and the rear of the facility. But again, nobody's there overnight, so should that emergency happen, the fire department would be rung up right by the sprinklers, and they would be on site. We would be called by that fire safety, so we would be coming as well.
that answer your question, Amy? Okay. Otherwise, no, I have no further questions other than the two I brought up. So if there's no further discussion, motion?
York moves to recommend that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit for animal daycare, recreation, and kennel boarding shelter for suites 101 through 102 on the property at 7126 South Miller Way, submitted by Andrew Cromie, Cromie Corporation, after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call, beginning with Chris.
Guzekowski, aye.
Anna, I.
Ouch, aye.
Jinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
And, excuse me, Bukevich, aye. Right. Item 9, we'll review a request for a conditional use permit along with the conditions and restrictions for outdoor storage, permanent at Kalik Building Services, an existing business located at 3834 East Putes, submitted by Mohammed Kalik, Kalik Builders. Christie or Todd?
That's me.
Todd.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as you mentioned, the property, which is zoned M1, is occupied by Kalik Construction Services, and they're seeking a conditional use for outdoor storage permit of storage shipping containers. See, I have pictures up of the existing building and viewing it from as you're coming up, going east or going west on Putes. As you can see from the site plan, they are proposing to have those storage shipping containers in the rear lot. That would be the north end of the property. And they're proposing to have 8 containers in total, 4 of them to be 8 by 40 and 4 of them to be 8 by 20 in dimension. They'll be planting 10 boxwood shrubs along the right-of-way to act as screening. And in addition, they'll be putting up a fence on the property parallel to the road, kind of more a little bit midway past the building at frontage, as well to provide for screening. Let's see, for what the fence is going to look like, it's going to be a 6-foot high composite fence, and they provided a couple of examples of what the fence is going to look like there as well. Just a couple of highlights on some of the conditions. One, that the approval will be for the storage of these containers to be only as shown in the location shown on the site plan. And that they'll be limited to the number of containers as they showed, being the 8 in total containers, and that they must have the fencing, and the fencing must be remain in good condition, and if it's not in good condition, it must be replaced. So if you're comfortable with the proposed, we have the recommended or suggested motion.
Okay. Applicant want to say a few words? Or wait? You'll wait? Okay. Where did I start? Chris?
I'm
Wanna
good.
Start us off?
No questions.
Christine?
I have no questions.
Steve?
No question, looks like a nice looking fence.
Ashley?
No questions.
Greg?
A couple questions. The first one, this might not be related to this at all, but can you go back to the aerial view of this site? And this may be an old picture, but what are all the cars? Are those all employees?
I will need you up at the podium, sir. Name and address.
Mohammed Kalik, 3834 East Putes Road. No, this is a very old picture.
Oh, so that's not currently what it looks like.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wish I owned that many cars, but I don't.
It's from 2022.
Okay. Secondly, the storage in the containers, is this temporary, or is this going to be now long-term permanent storage in these containers?
No, basically, when we have working on a project, just for lead time, so pre-ordering material for that project get them stored. When they're ready to be delivered to the job site, get them delivered.
Does the whole container move then?
No.
Or are these containers always going to be there? You're
Yeah.
just going to rotate the
That is
inventory?
That is correct.
And again, I don't own a business, so don't
No,
take
that's fair.
offense, but why don't you just build a building back there?
We discussed that. So, currently actually bought the land next door, working with DNR to get that, cleared up pretty soon, and we'll be proposing an addition to it.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate the fencing and the blocking of it, but it just kind of struck me as
I
odd
had
to
no
use.
other choice. Christie beat
Okay.
me to use it.
Understandable. Thank you.
Okay. Chris, you started us off, didn't you?
Yeah.
As far, Christie or Todd, does the fencing just run east and west, or does it go all the way to the back of the lot and across the back so that it's a completely enclosed yard?
Just east to west, as shown in the site plan here. So it'll be just on the paved areas.
Okay, so I mean, and it'll be screened, but it's really not an enclosed yard.
Not enclosed yard, it's from, that's why I mean, these pictures that you can see, they'll have the boxwood shrubs planted, like around here. And then the fence will come from the building over to where the pavement edges. From the other side, it will block the view, and then over here is wooded to the east of it and to the north. So it would be
And
difficult
they
to
hang out
see.
over the width of the building by about a container and a half on each side. Yes. Okay, I just thought it was security as well to secure them. Oh, do we? Okay. Okay, is there anybody else that has comment on this? Say anything? Yes, sir. Thanks for the heads up, Greg. Name and address, sir.
Chris Adams, 8711 South 6th Avenue. My question is, I'm actually happy that he's doing this. One of my questions to the gentleman is, what is the plan for heading west to that building? So in the picture that you show, it looks awesome, but to the west is just a broken down fence, an old boat, and I can literally see it from my backyard. So I'm happy that he's doing that, and I'm not opposed to the new stuff. But my question is, and maybe that's not the time, but what is that going to happen to the west part of that space? It's probably twice the size of the current lot, somewhere around that length.
Okay, we'll get the applicant up. Maybe he can answer for you. Sir, could you come on up, please? Maybe answer his question.
It looks a lot better than a few years back.
But I would ask you to turn your light down on your side.
The what?
The light.
The light on the sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check on that. But so we purchased the lot to the west, I believe last year that we closed on it, and of course from the county inherited some contamination on there, DNR. So currently working on that. We do have plan to clean it up eventually, but let us kind of go through the DNR. And like I said, we're planning on proposing something on addition, and promise you it would not look like that.
Can the boat be removed, or is it marooned
Yeah,
there
so
for good?
that boat and the campers and tires, and that was
This is the
that was
Linsky
still
property? Is this it?
just
Okay,
used to be a junkyard back in the days.
Zelensky's property, wasn't it? Anyways. Oh. Okay, we'll alert it to it. I mean, we can bring it up to our zoning officer as well, and they'll work with you. It's not like they're gonna come to you tomorrow and say, get it going, but it'll be on the radar.
I'd love to get it going.
Yeah.
I actually proposed, can I fix that fence at least in the front?
And the DNR stop.
Not the DNR, actually. That was part of the emails that I sent, when I proposed that. I don't think I could have a fence code. Am I correct? No? Could I? No? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll forward some emails.
Can
yeah,
work through
and see.
staff with that.
If I could do that, I'll love to, actually.
Okay.
Is there an expiration to these conditions and restrictions? So if you wanted to, you could just use containers to store material.
I mean,
Forever.
a conditional use is outdoor storage permanent.
Okay. Fire, anything? Christine?
After discussing this a little bit, if we gonna get, like, are we gonna give it like certain time frame for how long we're gonna allow for this outdoor storage vehicles, or especially if you get the DNR clearance, because we don't want to issue the permit and then come back and say, yeah, well, I'm not gonna build it. You know what I mean? So
The DNR discussion is on an entirely different property. I'm under I am under the understanding that past practice was to put time limitations on some
yes,
conditions and restrictions.
uh-huh.
That is, it's more of a longer, bigger policy question that's we haven't quite concluded. You can't pick and choose which items to put time restrictions on, and may have been some past practice that I don't want to continue to. Some uses put a time restriction on and other uses not. So at this moment, we haven't been practicing putting time limitations. I do want to make it very clear that the city does have the authority to revoke any conditional use at any time if they are in violation of the conditions and restrictions. That is in the code. That it requires a public hearing process, and going through Planning Commission just as a brand new conditional use permit. It's the exact same process. And if we find that a use is violating and just not acting and using the property as was intended with past approvals, then staff would bring a revocation before the Planning Commission and Common Council. So that is always an option, rather than maybe putting a time limitation. But again, it really does come down to having the staff level to be able to follow through with conditional use permits. And actually, I had a in-depth conversation, and we're trying to ramp up our enforcement. Or short-staffed at the moment, and but that is something that we're really interested in pursuing more diligently, is following through with past conditional use permits and conditions and restrictions to make sure that everyone is compliant with the limitations that were imposed on them at the time.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that, I think I'm a little bit confused when we're voting today or about like the external storage and the fencing and all of that versus coming back after the DNR clearance and a building. So we just have to put this on the side and we're just looking for the outdoor storage and the fencing purely.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
that's what's before you today, is just the outdoor storage, the conditional use permit for permanent outdoor storage behind the building. Solely on this property that's highlighted in red on the aerial photo in front of you. Mr. Kalick has purchased the property to the west from Milwaukee County, which has environmental issues, and that will take some time because going through the environmental remediation process with DNR is a bit of a slow
Expensive,
process,
yes.
but I think that our code enforcer, our neighborhood preservation officer, Tamira, has been working with Mr. Kalick on this particular property. And also, I think we'll have a little bit further in-depth conversations about the storage of items on the Milwaukee County, previously owned Milwaukee County parcel to the west.
Thank you.
Okay. Does that kind of answer your question, sir? Great. And if you can just, I know it's not on this agenda, but if the light is shining, we do have light codes for stray lights and try to be friendly to our neighbors. So
Yeah.
maybe it might need a
If there's a
shield.
lights, any lights, I'll remove them.
No, you don't have to remove them. Maybe just a shade is needed to get some downward light to it. So,
I think you're referring to the spotlight, to the actual sign? Yeah, I'll call the,
yeah.
yeah, I'll call them. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
We appreciate
yeah,
the
no
effort
problem,
and
no problem.
cooperation.
And then as far as the fencing, if that's something that you guys want us, we'll discuss that, but I'm willing to get that. And I'll get that boat
Yeah,
removed.
and that would really come down with our compliance officer, and you can work through them on it. It's really not part of this subject matter.
Correct.
But again, as I said, with TNT Trucking, we appreciate certain look for the city, and we want you to run a A1 business that looks A1, and we want everything around it to look that way. So appreciate the cooperation.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. There's no further discussion. Motion.
York moves to recommend that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit for outdoor storage, permanent of storage shipping containers on the property at 3834 East Putes Road after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call beginning with Christine.
Hannah, I.
Boucher, aye.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski,
Okay, item 10 is site review plan. We will review site and related plans and modifications for Blifford Lumber and Hardware, an existing business at 8626 South 13th and 8626 South 10th. Todd.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so this property, like you said, is on South 13th Street, South 10th Street, just north of North Branch Drive. It's zoned M1 manufacturing, and just last year, the western of the two lots received or was granted a conditional use for outdoor storage. So maybe you recall that. And it's currently occupied by Blifford's Lumber and Hardware. They have buildings on site currently, but which you can see in this photos here of what's there currently. But so now they are looking to expand, and they're proposing to construct a roughly 1,600 square foot showroom warehouse building on site. They're looking to do parking pavement improvements. They're looking to put in that outdoor storage area and to create an access drive east to South 10th Street. So here is a site plan showing what they're intending or proposing to do. As I mentioned, here in the western, close to 13th Street, is their proposed building, which will have dock area loading zone in the back, and it is just north of that the existing buildings that are on site currently. They're going to be adding parking, of course, around the new building and improving the parking that is in front of the existing building. And actually, to the access that's to 13th Street, it's going to move because currently it's more so in front of the existing building, and they're working with the county on this, and they're moving the access more central to the property. And the parking on site, which you'll see there's, as I mentioned, the customer parking here and the parking to the east, there's like 95 parking spaces, well exceeds the requirement for parking on the site. With those the improvement access that they're going to be creating these drives to access the back and eventually to the outdoor storage area, but they're going to have a couple three access gates to prevent public from getting back there. And then those, which will be paved drives, will go back to the outdoor storage area which will contain 4 long rack systems that are each 100 feet long, and will be storing lumber and forest products on them. And then that access will continue past through, like I said, the parking area that they're creating here, and create a new access onto where South 10th Street terminates in a cul-de-sac currently. And there'll be an access gate there as well. Something to note, they own both properties, this to the west and to the east, and this access drive that they're proposing does encroach on to the property to the east. So they'll be required to record a shared access agreement between the 2 properties for that. And then also they're proposing this wet detention pond here on site too, to handle all the demands with all the stormwater from the creation of the new impervious surface on site. What the proposed building will look like, they have a rendering here in the left upper corner. You can see below it is the building that is currently on site. And so you can see from, this is the elevations to the right from all 4 sides of it. And you can see that the materials that they're using are consistent and in harmony with the existing building, and do meet requirements for the city as far as our design requirements. They're proposing quite a bit of landscaping as well. All landscaping, again, meeting requirements and code for the city, with the plantings along the perimeter of the parking lot and interior of the parking lot as well. Landscaping around the foundation of the building is required throughout. And then also you'll note that they have landscaping proposed here at the southeast corner that should create good screening from 10th Street, so you won't be able to see as clearly the storage area and the racks that they'll have in back with the lumber. So if the Plan Commission is comfortable with what's presented, we have a suggested motion for you.
Thank you, Todd. Applicant want to say anything or just wait on questions? Thank you, sir. Christine?
I have no questions, thank you.
Steve?
Great improvements, no questions.
Ashley?
The city's had several different meetings with the project team over the last year or so, and what we're seeing here with preliminary design and whatnot, we have no questions, concerns, or anything at this time.
Greg?
No questions. Everything looks really great.
Chris?
Yes, looks great as well. I agree.
Amy, anything from fire? Concerning access, anything like that?
Jeb, Oak Creek Fire, no concerns at this time.
Okay. No, all I can say is, wow, nice looking building. It's nice, very nice. As long as fire's good with access, everything like that's worked out. Ashley's happy, the world's happy, so. If there's no further questions, motion.
York moves to approve site and related plans for the construction of a plus or minus 16,192 square foot showroom warehouse building at Bliffert Lumber and Hardware, an existing business located at 6826 South 13th Street and 6826 South 10th Street. Submitted by Greg Prosson, Consortium AE LLC, with the following conditions: that all relevant code requirements remain in effect, that all approvals and or permits from the Milwaukee County Department of Transportation are provided to the city prior to the submission of permit applications. 3, that a shared access easement for the access drive to South 10th Street between parcels 735-9998-002 and 735-9998-004 be provided to the city for review and once approved, recorded. And 4, that all revised plans are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Steve.
Mulch eye.
Kupchinsky, aye.
Lorik, aye.
David, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Anna, I.
Okay. Item 11 is sign appeal. Review a request for a sign appeal, Nexus Vape, an existing business at 912 East Rawson, submitted by Paul Butler, Bauer Sign Company. Yes, sir. We'll get right with you. Anything from Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the property is zoned B4, and they are seeking a sign variance for the sign setback. As you can see, the photo I have here shows the existing sign that's on site. They're asking to have setback so that they can have a multi-tenant monument sign that's 1.19 feet from the property line. You can see here's the current sign that they have, and I mean they're proposing to change out the cabinet on that existing sign using the existing poles and base. And you can see that the code requires that a 10-foot setback for signs in the B4 district. Here I have a site plan showing it, you know, as far as the relationship of where the sign, this is where the sign is currently and where they propose to keep the sign with the new cabinet. Its survey shows that it's, again, 1.91 feet, as you can see highlighted in yellow here, from the property line. So the applicant's here to speak on behalf of the variance, and we have the motion for consideration here.
Thank you, Todd. Applicant, you want to say anything or wait on questions, sir? Okay. Just for the minutes, he indicated he'll wait on questions. Let's start out. You, Ashley, or Steve?
I'll start.
Okay, Ashley.
Engineering does not have any concerns given it is going back in the same location that it currently exists. Looking at crash history, there were not any accidents reported at this location. That's kind of one of the first things that we would kind of recognize when you see a sign proposed so close to the property line. But at this location, we do not have any concerns with sight or vision or anything to that matter.
Yeah. Right.
Do we have, I know it's a variance for distance from the property line. Do we have a requirement for height? Like, would it also be a variance for height?
In the B4, the height is max is 16 feet, and this sign is proposed as 13 feet. So it meets the requirements for height for sign area, just as it's not 10 feet away from the property line.
Sure. It just seems like a very tall sign. I get that it's replacing and it looks much better than the old one based on these pictures. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Chris?
I agree with Greg. I think it looks better than the old ones.
Okay. Christine?
I have no questions.
Steve?
The sign staying there, will there be any issues if Rawson Avenue gets redone in the future? Sign ends up being, I guess, in that right of way of the road, potentially curb and gutter, who knows in the future?
Rawson is a county highway, right, Ashley? I think. So if the county were to ever need more right-of-way, they would, basically pay the business owner for the land and that price to be negotiated. Yep.
All right, no further questions.
Okay. I agree. It's a little bit of a hardship. The sign's there. The rendering looks like a great improvement. Looks like they're going to enclose the frame. My question is, you're going to get rid of that ugly weatherhead and creepy sign hanging on the side of it that says open. Is it still going to be an overhead feed to this, or are you going to bore underground? You're going to have to come up to the the podium, sir. Name and address.
Paul Butler.
Whoop, we'll need you on the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Paul Butler, 404 Michigan Court in Waukesha. There's not gonna be, that's part of the problem as well, is there are some stuff coming, there's actually some trenching from underground, and there's 2 wires coming off the poles, from the street. We don't know which one is hot or not, to be honest with you. The owner has spent about $4,000 on having We Energy put in a meter pedestal, which is already in place. It was done about.
Congratulations, I like
Yeah.
to see it.
It's a lot safer. Well, this thing was an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah,
It-
that thing's really, yeah, it's creepy. It's like a Bates
Yeah.
Motel
I mean, there's 2
sign
wires
there.
coming off the telephone, off the poles, and we don't know,
Yeah.
nobody wants to get near them.
No, and when we can get rid of overhead lines, it's not only, it's not only safe for the business, it's safe for anybody else if those lines come down the
And
line.
part of the hardship as well is, not only is their meter pedestal already put into place, but if you were to move it 7 feet back, it'd be literally in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah, it would be. I'm familiar with the property, and it's,
Very good.
it
Thank
is
you.
tight. And,
Okay.
Ashley kind of alluded to it, knock on wood. There's been no accidents since.
Okay.
So, no, other than that, that was my main concern, that if we can get those wires underground.
They are underground. They are already underground.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, they're just waiting for us to fabricate and install.
Okay, one last hurdle, fire, anything? Okay, we're all good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your patience. Bummer being last sometimes.
That's okay.
So, there's no further questions, discussion, motion on 11.
Lork moves to approve a sign variance allowing a multi-tenant monument sign 1.91 feet from the property line on the property at 912 East Rawson Avenue.
Guzekowski, a second.
Roll call, beginning with Ashley.
Chinsky, aye.
Lork, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Anna, I.
I'll try.
Oh, that's everybody. Item 12, site plan review, and related plans for revised site modifications at Frulani Foods, an existing business at 7350 South 10th. Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item was before the Plan Commission in September. The client of the applicant, the Frulani Foods, has made some business decisions and modifications that require Plan Commission approval again. They had applied for permits and staff noticed the modifications, and they were very willing to resubmit the proposal. So most notable is one of the additions was approved by Plan Commission for 672 square feet to include 2 bays. The new proposal increases that to 992 square feet with 3 bays rather than the 2. And then also notable modification, here's the renderings of the 3-bay addition on the left side of the screen there. Also reducing the height a little bit of that addition compared to what was approved by Plan Commission previously. And then to note, the yellow highlights indicate a few other small minor modifications. So the main one is the middle one. Obviously, the compactor addition is larger. And then the landscape wall that it will screen the additions in the building is just being moved 10 feet west a little bit. Nothing anyone will really notice. And then also on the north side of the aerial photo that you see, the yellow dashed area, that's a railroad spur that at one point, our last review, was going to be removed. They are going to keep the railroad spur. And so, again, just some small modification to be reviewed by the Plan Commission. With that, the suggested motion is before you. All plans have, now it's before you. All plans are in good shape. Staff has no requested modifications.
Thank you, Christie. Greg, you want to start us off?
No questions, thank you.
Chris?
No questions. It looks good.
Christine?
No questions.
Steve?
No questions.
Ashley?
No questions.
I have none either. It's a nice improvement. Looks good. Even with the expanded bay, it's good if business is looking up. So There's no further discussion. Motion on 12.
Lorik moves to approve site and related plans for revised site modifications at Furlani Food, an existing business located at 7350 South 10th Street, submitted by Charles Bleck, Bleck & Bleck Architects LLC, with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that all revised plans are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of permit applications.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call, beginning with Greg.
Lorik, aye.
David, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Hannah, I.
Paul Chai.
Chinsky, aye.
Okay, item 13 is a zoning text amendment. We're going to review a draft ordinance to amend table 17.0304 sub C pertaining to various restrictions to amend section 17.0804 sub E pertaining to conditional use procedures and to amend table 17.0603 of the municipal code pertaining to permitted sign types. Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we had some really great discussions on this amendment, a proposed amendment at the last Plan Commission meeting. And the Plan Commission asked staff to go back and particularly focus on some suggested modifications to 2 categories. 1, the beer, wine, and liquor stores, and then 2, the car washes. That was our lengthier discussion of those 2 items. So in consultation with the city attorney, what we've proposed before you is to state that instead of completely eliminating future beer, wine, liquor stores, we have broken it down that those beer, wine, liquor stores less than or equal to 5,000 square feet in area, so the really small ones that are going to a strip mall, for example, would not be allowed. New future applicants, again, existing ones can switch hands forever. But we're talking about a brand new store that does not exist. And then the suggested modification would be to allow those stores greater than 5,000 square feet as a conditional use permit in the B3, B4, and B6 zoning districts. So our larger, heavier trafficked commercial districts along Howell, 27th Street, some on Drexel, Ryan, our heavier commercial areas. So that addresses the concern about beer, wine, liquor stores, hopefully. And then the second modification addresses car washes. So there was concern that if we just stated the 2 words, car washes, no longer allowed, that if they were coming forward with, for example, a convenience store that wanted a car wash, would that prohibit that from happening? So again, in consultation with the city attorney, what we did is we stated that car washes, specifically standalone car washes, new ones would not be allowed. And she did, our city attorney did verify that if a convenience store, fueling station, those standard uses came in with a car wash along with it, the main use is the fueling station or convenience store. Yes, a car wash can be an ancillary use to that. So we added the words standalone to be very direct and explicit that alone would be the policy moving forward if it ultimately is approved. So those are the 2 modifications that we made after feedback that was provided by the Plan Commission.
Wonderful. Yeah, that was a lengthy discussion, and I think the right moves were made, in my opinion, but I'll wait to hear from you guys. So, Chris, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm happy with the changes, and after thinking it through and talking to some of the other aldermen, this was the direction everyone was thinking we should be moving. So,
okay. Christine?
I have no comments, actually. I like the approach that the standalone car washes are no longer going to be approved. It's just ancillary, I can't talk, coming along with that gas station or a convenience store. So that's a very good improvement.
Okay. Steve?
Question, how many standalones are there at the moment? Yeah, I'm just curious. I know we don't want any more, but
Off the
Do you
Top of
think
my
only
head,
two standalones?
at least two.
One with the coins.
There's one on 27th. Take 5.
Yeah.
Take 5 by Melrose.
No, that's a standalone one. That
if
where
it's
you
called
put
Take
the
5
coins and then you wash your car yourself.
Gotta,
Pull
Lisa,
that
you'd have to be on mic if you're gonna speak, so.
I don't know.
But yeah,
Maybe
just,
3 or 4.
just off the top of our head, 3 or 4. Can't. Two pop to mind, as Alderperson Marshall had mentioned, right off the top of my head. Now, keep in mind, this is citywide, but it's not to say, we don't want to be flipping it every time some better idea comes along. But general practice, I think this is good direction for the city.
I still struggle with potentially not having one more competitor to Tsunami. Because they're really the only big one in town right now. My opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's just the way they're laid out in the business districts. We'd really have to entertain the whole thing. We always have the option to say no, but given Development Bill of Rights, am I correct in that? Developers have quite a bit of say-so. So this gives us a little more regulation to it. It's not to say we can't get another one in. If it was the right fit, we all agreed we needed it in. But right now, I think this is a prudent step forward.
I think the intent is, we have the city of Oak Creek is definitely getting closer and closer to being built up. We have some prime real estate at some very big gateway intersections. Rawson and Howell comes to mind, and we get inquiries about standalone car washes, and I think, to meet the city's strategic action plan with highest and best use for land and what's left, I think that the guidance has been to in order to achieve the highest and best use for the land that is left, to make some policy decisions that are before you that would eliminate some of those uses that maybe are not as desirable.
Ashley?
Nope, nothing from me.
Greg?
I was not here for the initial conversation, so I guess I just have one question for clarification. Prior to this, if a business is permitted or has allowed through conditional use, the city or the planning commission, we can't just deny something because we don't want it, correct?
That's correct. And actually, these uses aren't called out today, which was a little concerning from my standpoint as the director of the department. Beer, wine, liquor stores, tobacco stores, pawnbrokers, so I'm under the retail use sections. Those are not specifically called out in our zoning code today. They all just fall under general retail and they're permitted.
Okay.
And then short-term, small dollar and or payday loans, again, not called out today, just fall under general retail. And then used vehicles is called out today. It is a conditional use permit in some of the commercial districts. So that change is to just no longer have new to the city used car dealerships. Car wash was conditional use permit. This, so those uses, to answer your question, would have just fallen under the blank category of retail. They weren't specifically called out.
So as an older person, often I'll get comments of the city needs to stop building X type of business. This takes us kind of one step towards deterring those types of businesses from continuing to build, correct?
It does, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And also where they can go. Because right now, across from the school, you're free to put anything that's
Right.
name it, anything, liquor store. It's not the look and feel we want. Chris, any last words?
I like the fact that it still ultimately gives us the ability to still reconsider things. But on the front end, they're using it as a template or a guideline. So appreciate that.
Well said. Okay, if there's no further discussion, motion on 13.
Clerk moves to recommend to the Common Council approval of an ordinance and amend table 17.0304, parent C, pertaining to various use restrictions to amend section 17.0804, parent E, pertaining to conditional use permit procedures, and to amend table 17.0603 of the municipal code pertaining to permitted sign types.
Sikowski, second.
Roll call. Beginning with me. Aye.
Sikowski, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Mulch eye.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Okay, we do have amendment, item 14, that was put onto the agenda. And it is consideration of a resolution amending the 2020 comprehensive plan for land use category from public to semi-public to commercial for the property located at 8825 South. Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a housekeeping item. Still learning the Oak Creek way and how things were done, but this is for that commercial property on Howell, the office building, if you will. This was before the Plan Commission last month in December. And the state statutes require when a comprehensive land use map amendment ordinance is adopted by Plan Commission, the recommendation must come in the format of a resolution from the Plan Commission. So again, just a housekeeping item. What had been done in the past, and I didn't catch it easily because the resolution approval by the Plan Commission was simply just done in the motion. It wasn't a separate agenda item. So from here on, we're going to do a separate agenda item for the resolution. We'll have another one come before you at the next Plan Commission meeting. But just for housekeeping purposes, an actual resolution needs to be adopted by the Plan Commission.
Okay. Any questions concerning this item? Kind of went over this, so.
And the document is I gave to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. There's no further questions. Motion on 14.
Clerk moves to adopt resolution number 2025-1, amending the City of Oak Creek 2020 Comprehensive Plan land use category from public, semi-public to commercial for the property located at 8825 South Howell Avenue, submitted by Brian Jermel, B&B Investment Properties, LLC.
Sikowski, second.
Roll call, beginning with Chris.
Sikowski, aye.
Hannah, aye.
Mulch eye.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye. Christie?
Mr. Mayor, if we may, please go back to item number 3, approval of the minutes. I'm sorry I didn't catch this as we were making motions, but Alderperson Lorick had made the motion, but I don't believe you can, since you were not present at that meeting. I think you have to abstain from the minutes. So I think that we need to go back.
4, 5. We can still do it.
Okay.
So,
I don't know if it matters. I did ask the city attorney previously, and she said you're just approving the minutes. It doesn't matter.
Then forget I said anything. Thank you. Okay, I learned
Good
something new.
catch,
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that.
okay.
Forget
so
it. Never mind.
Before we adjourn for the first time in 18 weeks, you have your Sundays back because the Packers did not advance in the playoffs. Or if you're a true football fan, you're going to be watching it anyways. If not, enjoy your Sundays here on out, I guess, until next year. If there's no further business, I'll look for adjournment. Motion, anybody?
Clerk moves to adjourn.
Sikowski, second.
Roll call. Christine, you want to start?
Sure. Hannah, aye.
Mulch eye.
Chinsky, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Sikowski, aye.
Okay, that is it.